Are we ready to go in the back room? Oh,
He's ready.
I got that. We'll call the meeting of the 21st of February City Council meeting to order. And we'll notice that all members are present and accounted for. And we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, first on the list is a consent calendar.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those signify support by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ordered. Okay. None for the recognitions and presentations. We'll now begin to go into the reports section of the agenda. Planning Commission, no meeting. Trails and Landscape, no meeting. And the city manager and staff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No report tonight.
All right. Okay, we'll move to the council and get their reports from any liaisons, regional committees, commissions, etc. Start with Vice Mayor.
Let's just go with Keith.
Keith Hayden.
Mine will be short. I just attended the Library Foundation meeting as a
Great.
council representative,
Excellent.
and they were again pleased with progress being made towards their little list of things to do around the library, and we have a few more things to do, but it's in real good shape.
Great. Councilmember Shuey.
All right, I met with the president of the CVCHS board between our last meeting now, and he was just wanting to advise me of some changes that occurred at the high school. Dr. Gaffney is leaving actually to go over with Neil McChesney's theater arts program, and so they've got a new principal and a couple other things that, nothing big, but just kind of give me an update overall. They're still very pleased with everything that's going on. The normal turnover rate for teachers, they're actually, thinking that this is going to be good, that they can keep getting better each time that, there's a change. Obviously they don't like all the change, if they can avoid it, but sometimes it's good, and they're still very optimistic. So everything's going well.
A question. He was a short-term president. He was only there for, a year?
Principal, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And he's got a good opportunity over with
Excellent.
the school, what is it? PSA, Performing.
School of Performing
School,
Arts.
yes, SPA. I always get that wrong. But it's a good opportunity for him, and
Great.
everything's going well.
Excellent. Thank you.
Good.
Councilmember Julia Carlanto.
So I attended the CBCA Art and Wine Committee meeting that was last week, and I'm sure you'll mention a little bit about that. And then I also met with one of the representatives from Clayton Village. That's the task, looking to help elderly people to stay in their homes as long as possible. But I think they're looking at launching their effort on May 1st. So I'm sure all of us will be hearing more about that in the next months.
Great. Thank you. Councilmember Pierce.
Yeah, I had 3 Metropolitan Transportation Commission meetings, a TransPAC, which is Central County Transportation Committee, Contra Costa Transportation Authority, and Association of Bay Area Governments Executive Board meeting, where we talked about the contract for services, where we will be contracting with MTC to provide all of our staff for us. As an agency, the merging of the staff is the first step toward a governmental interagency merger. And then had a Bay Area Regional Collaborative meeting on Friday. Locally, the Clayton Historical Society is very busy, just opened a brand new exhibit on the schools and education in the Clayton area, and there were 5 elementary schools in the Clayton Valley at one time, and there's a fabulous exhibit going on right now about them, and it will run through early fall. So I would recommend it highly to everyone to go over and drop in and see what this exhibit is all about, some of the rules for teachers and things like that, as we talk about what's going on with the district now and our educational opportunities. It's really cool to see how well run things were way back when.
Great. Thank you. I attended a couple of things. The first was on Thursday, the 9th, we had a really good meeting here at the library. Actually, the county health department came out and made a presentation to all the community groups that put on events that have vendored food that came in. And they gave us a great presentation on exactly how to apply so that we're making it much easier for all of the committees, and that included Oktoberfest, Art and Wine, and the Clayton Barbecue. Excellent presentation, and they had 3 staff members, including the supervisor of the unit, and how all those things went together and worked to make, when anybody attending one of our events, make sure everything is healthful and sanitary and safe. On the 10th of February, I attended the Academy number 15 graduation for the Contra Costa County Fire Protection District. By the way, they've hosted the last 2 at this wonderful theater in Antioch which I've never been to except for these 2 events, the El Campanile. And it's one of these that has absolutely been restored to Art Deco, I don't know, the 30s or whatever, but it's beautiful inside. They had a graduating class of 8 new firefighters, which will be very well needed or very well used in terms of staffing out any openings that remain. It looks like with this staffing level from this latest group that the county should be up to full staffing for all of its stations. In addition, in talking with the chief, they're going to schedule at least 1 academy per year, so they make sure that they're always have a pipeline of new firefighters coming along to replace anybody that's retiring. On Thursday the 16th, attended the County Connection Board meeting, which I represent the city on. Nothing new, although we did get our presentation for the federal funding program that the Connection is looking to get from Washington to help do a number of things, which includes improving the quality of the buses that they have in service, and to make sure that they have a good steady stream of repairable parts and things that go on those buses that keep that system buzzing like a clock. And that's it for me. We'll now go into public comment for anything that is not on the agenda. And anybody wishing to come forth and speak? If not, we will close that portion. Item 6 on public comment. Public hearings, we have none. And we'll move to action items. And the first is a consideration for the matters concerning the financial status of the city's mid-year budget report for fiscal year 2016-17, and we'll turn it over to Finance Manager. Let him go with it.
Thank you, Mayor Diaz. So hopefully this works. Perfect. So as you said, this is the mid-year budget presentation for the 2016-17 fiscal year. I just turned it off. Sorry. Okay, there we go. So the fiscal year 2017 mid-year budget presentation actually includes 3 recommendations by staff. The first recommendation is by motion to accept the mid-year budget staff report of the city's general fund and special revenue or special restricted use funds for the current fiscal year. The second one is a recommendation to adopt the attached resolution amending the annual operating budget for the current fiscal year 16-17, and that pertains specifically to 2 funds and 1 recommended appropriation amendment in each of those funds, and we'll address that later in the presentation. And then the third and final recommendation is by motion to adopt the staff recommended allocation of fiscal year 2015-16 general fund surplus to address specific unmet financial needs. And those are actually included in attachment 4 to the staff report. And the reported surplus in the 2015-16 audit of the general fund was $204,902. And we'll address that further in the presentation as well. So to cover some background on the budget, the current year budget was adopted by the City Council on June 21st, 2016. The adopted fiscal year 2016-17 general fund budget projected total revenues of $4,300,620 and authorized total appropriations of $4,261,720, which resulted in an anticipated general fund operating surplus of $38,900 to the good. So on February 3rd, 2017, prior to this meeting, the city manager, Mr. Gary Napper, and myself met with the City Council Budget Subcommittee to review the mid-year budget results. And the result of that meeting was that the subcommittee did support the analysis and recommendations by staff and contained herein. The final piece of background information before we get into the analysis is that to date, there have been 4 budgetary amendments approved by the City Council, 2 of which impacted the general fund, and then the other 2 of which impacted the Landscape Maintenance District Fund, or CFD 2007-1, as we call it locally. So in the general fund, there was 2 amendments. One of those was a new contract for vehicle maintenance for the police department, because they restructured their rates, and because we participate with them, the chief of police did an analysis to see if there was other options, but it was deemed that the sticking with the city of Concord was the best for the city of Clayton for now. The second amendment to the general fund was the adoption of Ordinance 468, revising the city council stipends. And then moving on to the landscape maintenance district, the 2 changes were, one was for the additional full-time maintenance worker, one to increase the maintenance productivity of the district, and the second area was the approval of the contract for the Keller Ridge tree replacement project. And the approval of the contract was slightly higher than what we had estimated in the adopted budget. So therefore we had to do an additional amendment for that. So now, taking a look at the pace of general fund revenues and expenditures, this graph kind of gives a summary of where we stand at mid-year percentage-wise. And looking at expenditures, it's actually right on track at slightly above 50%, 50.29% actually. And it would be typically expected to be a little bit higher than 50%, largely because of the upfront costs that the city incurs at the beginning of the fiscal year for things like workers' comp insurance and property damage insurance and other premiums that we pay in the first half of the year. And then looking at revenues, we're at 56.38% of the adopted budget, which is right on track as well. And that's actually pretty consistent with the allocation that we get, that the city gets from Contra Costa County for the property taxes, which is our largest revenue source. And that's allocated by the county in 3 parts, 55% in December, 40% in April, and then the final 5% in June. So actually, at the general fund operational side, things look very encouraging. This is a 3-year trend summary of mid-year revenues of the general fund. And overall, kind of just looking at some variances that jump out, we have sales and use taxes, which are quite noticeably higher than we were at mid-year last fiscal year. And that's largely explained by the unwinding of the triple flip that the state did, which was effective for the first full year this year. So our budget projections were essentially estimating almost higher than a 25% spike in this line item because of the way that the state was changing their allocations. And actually, the increase in sales and use taxes wasn't an overall net increase to the general fund in itself, just because we had a equal reduction in property taxes because of that legislation change. The other item that kind of pops out looking at this table is the RPTTF distribution, which is it's always a challenging acronym, the Redevelopment Property Tax Trust Fund distribution. And that essentially is what we get as a taxing agency as part of the former RDA, the successor agency. Whatever's left once the obligations of the recognized obligation payment schedule are paid off is shared amongst the taxing entities. So this goes up and down depending on how much we're asking for on the ROPS, the Recognized Obligation Payment Schedule. So the more we ask for on the ROPS, the lower this amount's going to be. The less we ask for, the more we get. So because obligations were actually higher in this past ROPS period with the repayment of the fire station note to the general fund, which was a very positive occurrence for the city. That's why this is slightly down, but the amount is actually consistent with our projections. So just looking at prior year, that fluctuation doesn't raise any alarms. So overall, the growth in general fund revenues is actually in line with our budget projections, which is great news. Then moving on to the a 3-year trend of mid-year expenditures for the general fund. Again, at 50.29% of the adopted budget, overall things are looking pretty good for general fund appropriations for the current fiscal year. And actually looking at the order of size by department in the general fund, it's actually consistent with the prior year with the exception of the maintenance department, which is that $71,674 up there. That's for the maintenance of the city facilities, buildings, and other parks. That actually swapped with the library. That was the only change looking at prior year, mid-year results. But again, that's not too significant of a change. Those departments each are approximately 2 to 3% of the total general fund budget, so not anything to be concerned about there yet. This slide provides a summary of the status of fiscal year 2015 general fund earmarked surplus, which was approved by the City Council on February 2nd, 2016. And that was essentially an assignment or an earmark of the surplus reported in the fiscal year 2014-15 general fund audit, or the financial statements of the city. So of the projects approved by the City Council, of the 14 projects, 9 are actually complete at this point, 4 are in progress, and 1 has a status on this chart of not yet started, which is project number 13, the Electronic Records Management Laserfiche Scanning Project. And that, talking to other department heads, is expected to start soon now that significant progress has been made in the record retention review process with the City Hall records. So basically, going through our City Hall records, or what staff calls the dungeon, years and years of documents of permanent records and lots of records that could be destroyed. We had to first separate all of the old from the new, what could be kept, what could be destroyed. Now that we've basically completed the review of our retentions, we're expecting that project number 13 on this list to be started pretty soon and hopefully be completed by the end of the fiscal year. Now looking at some of the other significant restricted use funds of the city, this chart provides a mid-year summary of revenues for 11 of the funds that we consider to be very significant, that the city also is in control of. And these are mostly special revenue funds with restricted revenue sources from other agencies or the state, as well as the city's capital improvement project fund, the CIP fund as we call it. So looking at revenues for these 11 funds, everything appears to be on target and aligned with our projections. The stormwater and Measure J funds, those percentages at mid-year are substantially below 50% of the year, which makes sense because with both the Measure J fund as well as the Stormwater Assessment District fund, we won't receive those revenues until well after the mid-year point. But we haven't received any news from the county or state indicating they would be substantially lower than what we had projected. The next slide summarizes the expenditures of those 11 other significant restricted use funds of the city. And when looking at variances that pop out on the expenditure side, we look at you can see in the Oakhurst Geological Hazard and Abatement District, or the GHAD district, expenditures are actually above 50% at a little over 81% of the adopted budget. And this actually is when looking at the details of the fund, is not alarming because that pertains largely to insurance premiums that we have to pay at the first half of the year. And due to the nature of the GHAD fund and it being somewhat high risk with its past, with circumstances the city has dealt with, we do incur high premiums for that, unfortunately. The second area looking at this is the CIP, or the Capital Improvement Program Fund. And as you can see, it's only at 10% of projected expenditures for the entire fiscal year. And that's largely because we're still working on executing some of these capital projects, one of which Rick is going to be discussing after my staff report. But when looking at the details, once the 2016 arterial rehab project, which is CIP 10437, picks up some steam in the second half of the fiscal year, we expect this to be much closer to 100%. But at this point, that the expenditures that we've incurred in the CIP, that about $301,000, is for the first half, if you may, of the 2016 arterial rehab project, which Rick will also be discussing later. So overall, there are two areas in our significant restricted use funds where we've identified negative variances that staff has recommended be addressed through budget amendments at this point. And the first one is within the Grove Park, the Downtown Grove Park Special Revenue Fund. And staff is recommending to the City Council an increase in the water services line item by $21,500. And this negative variance just pertained to high water consumption of the new really popular spray feature down at the Grove Park. So when we did the budget amendments, the budget preparation process, we didn't have historical actuals to rely on. So really the only historical water cost we had in that fund was for the water fountain and the restrooms, of course. And then actually that fund relies significantly on well water too for the irrigation purposes. So there wasn't a whole lot of water consumption. So at this point, for the Grove Park, it's not really a request to spend an additional $21,500 in water. It's really to address the fact that we're kind of expenditures are going faster than we predicted with water. So it's to address that negative variance. The second and final area where staff is recommending a budget amendment to the City Council is in the Successor Housing Agency Fund, and that is a request to increase the legal services line item by $15,000. And that pertains to higher demand for legal services in the Affordable Housing Compliance Monitoring Program. And this, for the most part, had to do with some of the monitoring that they had to do for, I believe, hiring essentially a PI to investigate some of the affordable housing units, which isn't an annual operating cost. It just, as these things arise, we have to address them. So in conclusion, the general fund results at mid-year are very encouraging, suggesting that the projections are in line with our budget and that those budget projections were reliable. Staff is making very clear progress on the objectives directed by the City Council for use of the fiscal year 2015 general fund surplus. And the other special revenue funds and the CIP fund are on track with just two budget amendments that staff is recommending the City Council adopt. At this point, the staff is now recommending to the City Council to consider one-time earmarking of the fiscal year 2015-16 general fund surplus to specific unmet financial needs, which were originally presented to the City Council in the first November meeting of 2016. So before we go on to the next slide that provides a summary of the proposals from staff on how we believe is the best use of those monies to address unmet needs, if the City Council has any questions on any of the other areas or analyses that I provided, I'd be happy to try to address
Excellent report, and I'm very impressed with the management of the expenditures, only 0.29% above plan. That's excellent. Any questions from the council?
Not at this time.
No, fantastic job.
Certainly
Yeah.
comments, but no questions.
Anything else? No, move ahead.
All right, so at this point, I will move it to the next slide and pass the item to our city manager, Mr. Gary Napper.
It's not on there. I just realized it's not on there. I used the wrong presentation.
It was in the one that I
It was
sent.
the one,
but
yes.
So this
I'm
is the
sorry.
second one.
It's like a
That's right.
whitewash to me right here.
Yeah, well, it's just a blank.
We have a blank sheet we can
you-
work off of.
You need to consider it already spent, I guess. Thank you. You might recall, mentally, not visually, that when the audited financial statements for 15-16 were presented to you, it indicated that there was a general fund excess, if you will, of $204,000, $902. And we, at that time, we had talked with staff, and there was a list of one-time items, this was back in November, that we were looking at potentially presenting to the city council for consideration. As historically is done, we try to keep the excess monies that arrive from the general fund to be spent only on one-time expenditures, so we do not incur a recurring cost in the following or subsequent fiscal years. The city council said, great, let's take a look at that at the mid-year budget to see how we're doing, see if we need to fill any gaps mid-year that would be required before we use the monies for any unmet needs. That delay proved to be fortuitous because since that time period, we found that there were several heating and ventilation issues that arose up at City Hall. And so of the $204,902, we are recommending 4 items that be earmarked for that purpose. The first, as we talked about during the audited financial statements, was the fact that in next year's fiscal budget, the Department of Finance, our good pals in Sacramento, have decided that they're not going to allow us to have as much administrative fee monies to administer the retirement or dissolution of the agency for the coming fiscal year. Normally, we get, what is it, 400,000, Kevin, I believe?
250,000.
Excuse me, it was 400,000, 250,000.
Yeah.
And they've decided that their calculations are that we will receive $110,000 less in the coming fiscal year. As we've informed you before, the Department of Finance, a lot of their decisions are not rooted in state law or the legislation, but they basically kind of say, well, that's the way we're going to do it. And if you don't like it, then the only real recourse is to appeal, and then they're the appeal process, and then you have to take them to court. So they're basically knowing that agencies who don't like what's being done have to factor in that if we take them to court, and if we are successful, we do not get our legal fees reimbursed. And they understand that when they make some of those decisions. So as we looked at the general fund excess from last year, we kind of have taken the idea that, let's take a look at a multi-year budget, that since we had excess monies in the previous year, and this coming year, why don't we use some of those monies to fill that gap? Otherwise, we'd have to go into the general fund for next year with about a 2.6 gap already staring at us of $110,000. The 2.6% is the amount of $110,000 to a $4.3 million budget. And that makes it difficult, as we all know, because costs are normally increasing as opposed to decreasing. So we are requesting that $110,000 of this excess monies be reserved for that purpose. And then going back to the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, the air conditioning unit at City Hall consists of 5 different compressors. Right at the tail end of summer last year, 3 of them failed. They kind of went down in stages, 1, 2, 3. And fortunately, we were on the tail end of the hot summer, and we were able to get by, although there were some little complaints like, gee, isn't it warm in here? And I just said, well, you're stressed because of your job. And anyway, no, we were able to limp by. We did get an estimate to repair each of those 3 units, and that estimate we call them failed compressors, was $10,400. However, the units, those 5 unit packages of air conditioning at City Hall have a service life of 15 years, and they're 19 years old. So we were thinking it doesn't make a lot of sense to plow $10,400 into repairing 3 failed units, 3 out of the 5, potentially that the other 2 might fail at some time, and we're just plowing good money into bad. So it's our recommendation. We received a cost estimate, which would be subject to competitive bid, of $61,500 to replace all of those units with a new package. Along with that is the heater at City Hall, the big boiler. It's a 637,000 BTU boiler, a little bigger than the grill at Clayton Cleans Up. And the heater is 19 years old as well. That's how old City Hall is. Has a service life of around 25 years. We could retube the leaking boiler. That's almost $11,000. But once again, we're looking at, do we do that when it's starting to near its service life, or do we replace that? The replacement cost is less than the air conditioning unit. We estimate $23,000 to $24,000. And that would go to competitive bid as well. In order to go to competitive bid, however, we need to draw up specifications of the equipment and unit, how it would plug into the existing system, and so we need approximately $7,950 to have an HVAC expert draw up those specifications. So if you add all those 4 items up, it comes to about $203,325. We ran this by our council budget subcommittee that you have of Vice Mayor Hayden and Councilmember Catalano, and after questions in determining whether this was the highest priority that the city had at that time or this time, there was the recommendation that we should move forward and present it to the entire city council. As you know, air conditioning and heaters are part of the work conditions of employees, and OSHA gets kind of funny about things like that if we don't have it properly, the environmental conditions. Then just for information, I put in the fact that we were hoping that we might be able to have a buffer against CalPERS pension rates. As you know, CalPERS is moving up on their pension rates, getting more out of local governments to pay for the unfunded liabilities. This $39,000 gap that we're projecting for next fiscal year is not related to the recent discount movement, which will come into effect in fiscal year 18 and 19. But the $39,000 is in fact part of the general fund increase that we're expecting. We were hoping to be able to squeeze that in, but it doesn't look like that we'll be able to do that. So our recommendation is that in addition to the motion to accept and adopt the resolution on the mid-year budget, that by separate motion you allocate those excess monies to that purpose as outlined. That's our report, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and now we can answer additional questions.
From anybody? Nothing. This is a public input item. We'd like to open it up for public comment on this item. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward, state your name. Seeing none, we move it back up to the council.
Well, I'll make a few comments. Councilmember Catalano and I did meet with Gary and Kevin, spent quite a bit of time going over the budget and all the backup details. Had a number of questions, and as usual, they were able to answer all of them to our satisfaction. Even demonstrated the triple flip, which was very interesting to see there in the office. And
Kevin did those. He's young.
We did want to see that when we saw that in the report. And Kevin also was able to explain the acronyms that were used in the report. But seriously, all of the questions were answered, and Kevin and Gary both gave a very thorough explanation for both where we are now, why the 2 additional items are being asked as far as amendments to the previous budget. And also we went over, as Gary mentioned, the 4 items now being requested, how we will use the excess surplus from last budget that was available. And we agreed with that recommendation and had a good meeting.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think I have a whole lot to add to that. I think that sums up our meeting, but we did have, like I said, Vice Mayor Hayden said, we had a pretty lengthy meeting, went sort of item by item and asked a lot of questions and got a lot of those answered. So I don't have any further comment other than that either.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Question, are you asking us to reserve the 242 or the 203?
The 203, 325.
And then the other was just wish list if we wanted
Yeah,
to
I
add
just
it?
thought, in the next pressing item, if you didn't wish to do any of the HVAC, well, then the next item would be the CalPERS.
It's just every time I hear CalPERS, it just gives me angina. Okay, well, I obviously spend some time in City Hall on various occasions, and being on the third floor especially, boy, in the heat, it all rises. So, plus there's a few council members in there, and that always puts the hot air up. So I don't have any issues with any of this. It was fortuitous that we waited. So cautious government is good government.
Okay, yep.
No, but if no one else wants to, I'll make the motion that we accept the mid-year budget staff report of the city's general fund and special restricted use funds for fiscal year 2016-17.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded, as stated by Councilmember Pierce. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those signify support by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? None? Ordered.
I would further move adoption of the resolution amending the annual operating budget of the city of Clayton for the 2016-17 fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2016.
Second?
Seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all will signify support by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ordered.
I would also move we adopt the staff recommended allocation of the 203,000 something dollars in fiscal year 2015-16 general fund surplus to address the specific unmet financial needs as was outlined by staff this evening.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion on this slide? Hearing none, all those signify support by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ordered. Okay. Is that where we are now? Or do we move to item 8B, the consideration for a resolution approving the addition of a new capital improvement program or project entitled El Portal Tal Drive Restoration Project number 10439, sidewalk repairs and street rehab with the identification and allocation of the project funding sources. Mr. City Engineer.
Thanks, Kev.
Just as a note, as Mr. Mizuno leaves, he's on baby watch right now. I think, what is baby expected today?
Saturday already, so we're overdue.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
You got your phone on.
Get a skip
Done,
pizza.
right?
You might want to stick closer to the door.
We tried the Franco pizza already, no success.
That's because only Kevin had it.
You didn't read the directions. Huh?
Mr. City Engineer.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you,
how
sir.
you doing? Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the pavement on El Portal Drive was last overlaid in 2004. While portions of the pavement remain in good condition, the first 900 feet or so from Regency Drive has basically fallen apart.
Rick, can you bring the mic closer? Your voice is a little too soft.
I've heard that.
Uh-huh.
In addition to that, the curbs on the south side have moved up and down. The sidewalk is tilting, and it's a real mess. Since Unitech was out here stabilizing the pavement on the arterial projects, we decided to have them investigate the failed pavement area. And they did some potholing and found numerous large voids in the soil and rock below the pavement. They estimated a price of about $31,000 to stabilize.
Click on your pictures. Rick.
Oh, click on the pictures. Okay. This is the sidewalk. This area of sidewalk makes me a little nervous because you step off it, you're down in the bottom of the creek. It's really kind of scary. And then That's more of that. Where's my pavement pictures? Well, the pavement's all broken up, honest.
I think most of us have driven it and observed that.
Yeah. As I said, Unedited had estimated about $31,000 to inject their polymers into the subgrade. As they were doing the work, it took quite a bit more than anticipated. There was additional $23,000 in material used for the stabilization, bringing the total cost to $54,000. This roadway rehabilitation repair left approximately $379,000 in available Measure J funding. Now that the subgrade has been stabilized, staff is proposing a new capital improvement project, the El Portal Drive Restoration Project, to reconstruct the surface improvements, namely the pavement and the southerly side sidewalk areas. Excuse me. We have estimated the total cost of the work at $250,000, including the construction of a safety rail along the back of sidewalk where the ground drops steeply into the adjoining creek. Since we are repaving the entire width of the street, the city is also required by recent state law to reconstruct the handicap ramps at each of the intersections along the project length to meet current ADA standards. There's a total of 8 ramps that need to be basically ripped out and rebuilt. It is recommended that this component of the new project be funded by the annual set-aside monies in CIP 10394A, the ADA Sidewalk Parking Improvement Project. The total cost of the El Portal Drive Restoration Project is estimated at $54,000 for the subgrade stabilization, $250,000 for the surface improvement reconstruction, for a total of $304,000. There is $433,000 in available Measure J funds, less the $54,000 already expended, and a current balance of $22,900 in the ADA project account to address the necessary cost budgets. Should the proposed CIP be accepted and approved, staff will prepare the necessary design and bid specifications to submit the project for competitive bid and council award of contract at a subsequent public meeting. The anticipated schedule would be March 15th to advertise, a bid opening of around April 7th, a contract award April 18th, construction commencement about May 15th, and completion about June 30th. As stated, there's approximately $379,000 in unexpended Measure J per capita funds from the 2016 arterial rehabilitation project. The proposed project will also require $20,000 in ADA fund monies to underwrite the installation of the required 8 new handicap ramps. Staff recommends these funds be used to fund the balance of the $250,000 in design and construction costs to complete the repair project. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
The report indicates that if the proposal is accepted, there would be additional design and bid specification work required,
Yes,
and staff would handle that. Is there an additional cost associated with that?
that's part of the estimate.
It is part of that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
David, what happened?
Best we can tell is when the subdivision was originally built in the early 70s, they piled a lot of rock, large rock, 6 to 12 inch rock, and filled over it. Normally that's done on deep fills, and they put even larger rocks than that in the bottom of deep fills and then fill over it. But what's happened is they had it towards the outside of the fill along the creek. Maybe they thought they were reinforcing the slope. I don't know. But over the years, that underground, the soils filtered out and back towards the creek, I assume. So,
What's the problem on the side, though? How are we going to prevent that erosion or whatever else from coming back again? And
well, there's no erosion on the sides. What happened is the soils, the sandy soils under the street just kind of migrated out and left a lot of voids under the street. So the rock and pavement section just started moving, and the pavement's broken up into, a lot of it is like 2 to 4 inches square pieces of pavement.
okay, so this is not going to happen again
No, definitely not.
because of the fix that we're doing?
Yes, the injection process that Eurotech uses basically filled all the voids and made it one big mass. And it's guaranteed for 5 years, just like our arterial work.
And there's not an erosion problem from the
From the top, no. And there's no erosion from the creek itself.
okay.
That's
So this is, in your opinion, this is basically from the fill that they used underneath the roadbed?
Yes. Slowly migrating over the years.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Nothing else? Because this company, is this Euretech, is that how you pronounce it?
Eurotech.
Okay, they're already working there, so this will not have to go out for additional bidding, is that my understanding?
Yeah, basically, we gave them a change order on the arterial project to investigate this and then to go ahead and do the injections. The injection work is done,
Yeah,
and it's ready now for the surface. Basically, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to grind out the existing pavement, probably down to a depth of 12 inches, grind that up, relay it in there, construct new curb and gutter with the safety railing along the backside of the curb and sidewalk, and then come in and put in 4 inches of AC on top. So we'll have a brand new surface for that whole 900 feet. It should last for a long time.
all right, thank you.
Follow-up
Go ahead.
question, then. You said the injection is completed,
Yes.
and yet the surface is still there, so they were able to get under that surface for the
Yeah,
injection?
the way the injection works is they drill metal tubes 4.5 to 5 feet down below
Through
the
the
pavement.
existing pavement?
Right.
Okay.
And they space them out so that when the polymers come out, it migrates all the way through and fills up all the voids and locks everything together.
Now, they'll be able to see that, the success of that operation then when they begin breaking up the existing pavement, repaving?
Yeah, we'll be grinding off the top of it, so we'll see how it looks.
Okay,
But I've been assured that it's solid.
okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, this is a action item. We need to open it up for public comment, and anyone that wishes to speak or address on this item, please step forward and give us your name. If not, we will close the public comment, bring it back to this council for action.
I'd move adoption of the resolution adding the El Portal Drive Restoration Project to the City of Clayton Capital Improvement Project as project number 10439 and transferring Measure J per capita funds from the 2016 Arterial Rehabilitation Project, CIP number 10437, and from the ADA Sidewalk Parking Improvements, CIP number 10394A.
Great.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those signify support by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Ordered. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The final action item, item 8C, is for the city council discussion to determine topics and subject matter for the annual joint special meeting with the Mount Diablo Unified School District Board of Education to be held at a special joint meeting on Monday, March 6, 2017. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item actually comes back to you for two things. For the council to determine the agenda items it wishes to add to that joint meeting. The date of March 6th has already been selected and approved. It'll occur in this room. That's a Monday, and it will be, as you indicated, at 6:30 p.m. When we proposed the date, or your selection of the date, the initial question at the time was asked, which items would you like on the agenda? Vice Mayor Hayden said, well, why don't we just list what we had last time and then we can cross them off or add additional ones. In addition, I would note that one item for potential discussion with the school district came up during your meeting on the goal setting session. It was the concept or the idea of a all-purpose mini weather track on Field 4 out by the Clayton Community Gym, which not only the district could use, but also members of the public for exercise, walking around. While it would not be a full 440 type of track, as we discussed, mini tracks are still popular nonetheless, and people can calculate their mileage or how many miles they're going by the number of laps that they do. So if that one is acceptable, that's fine, and we're waiting for you to indicate which items you would like to continue. I note from prior meetings, it seems to me on page 2 of the items that we listed, number 1 has, been already performed. That's the storm drainage aspects, that partnership, which I've reported previously has worked out really well, because this year with lots of rain, and then last year as well after it was done, we have not had any of the slough off on Clayton Road as we had from the hillside before. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll return it back to you, and once you've identified the items, then merely I would ask for a motion to officially set that joint meeting schedule.
Thank you. Any additional items?
Well, I have additional, but I suggest we go through the list we have to see
Go right ahead.
if those items have been addressed adequately. I see the first 2 are in Julie's neighborhood. Curious about your impression of whether or not those issues have been handled adequately.
They're doing better at the drop-off issue. It's by no means solved. There are still an awful lot of folks who are cutting into opposing traffic to go around the backup. And just last week, the backup actually extended almost to Atchison Stage. One of those super rainy mornings, the backup was solid on Pine Hollow all the way out to the city limits. It was just incredible. And, they do that in the afternoon as well, lining up, waiting to pick up Johnny. And the afternoon is worse than the morning, because the morning is just a drop-off. The afternoon, they're getting in line to pick up, and it goes much, much slower. They do have some volunteer parents who come and help with traffic control at that corner in the morning. So that gives a little bit of help, but it doesn't solve the problem of people jumping out of line and going opposite traffic, which is a problem when you have a very narrow 2-lane road with no shoulders. There's no place to go when you have opposing traffic. So it's still an issue. I think we still need some more parent education on that. So that's pretty good. As Gary said, number 1, the stormwater runoff has been handled. The notifying the neighborhood about outdoor events and PFC events, I think, is better. They certainly did a good job when they held the run up there, Relay for Life, when they held that up there, but the school didn't actually do that. Relay for Life did. They rented it and they notified the neighborhood. Otherwise, I'm not sure that the school has done a lot, although they're better at putting it on the message board. They haven't really notified the neighborhood very effectively, or it doesn't go 4 houses away, one or the other, because I've not received any notice except for the Relay for Life, and I'm only 4 houses from the school. So you would think I'd be in the notification list. So I think that could be done better, but there haven't been outdoor events either, as far as I'm aware. So that helps. Yeah, that's That's those two.
Sounds like they should both stay on the list then.
I don't think it hurts anything.
Yeah.
If I might, it might be worthwhile for that notification to occur, because there is a new elementary school principal, and she has not had the benefit of that discussion from last time. So it might be just renewal and just a reminder or a newness to her that, oh, I need to outreach to the neighborhood.
Yeah, just to reinforce we're still interested in
Exactly.
resolving both those issues.
Well, and that actually really applies to Diablo View as well, in some ways, because there are folks down there that would probably like to know when there's going to be something going on, so that they're at least aware.
On Marsh Creek Circle.
Yeah, on Marsh Creek Circle particularly. But, even, yeah, I don't think it hurts for us to know more than less.
Anybody else? Anything else?
Good on that.
All right.
On 4, asking for the update or the status on the inaugural year of the after-school sports program. I've been contacted and asked about any interest in resurrecting a new look at utilizing some of that area down there by Diablo View Middle School for a multi-use facility. Because of all the rain, it's really interfered with after-school sports activities. And apparently folks are looking at the possibility of building almost a big hangar-like structure and thinking that it could pay for itself by the fees it would charge with parents that are currently paying to use other indoor facilities much, much further away. Just something to think about based on the success they've already experienced now with this after-school program and the need possibly for something in addition.
But that would be right where the track is that we were talking
The
about?
open field.
You'll
Field
be
4.
for that. Something to consider.
I know we've talked about that in the past.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been an option with batting cages and everything else. And it is particularly brutal right now because Little League is, getting going and haven't been able to get on the fields yet. And it's brutal, and people are renting the gyms, and the gyms are all, I mean, basically Diablo View Middle School the gym is full, basically 8 to 8 almost every day, on the weekend and everything else. We're looking at potentially, Little League paying for 3 hours on Sunday from 6 to 9, simply because it's supposed to rain again Saturday and Sunday, and get a little bit of time in there. So that proposal is something that certainly probably bears discussion with them in terms of, hey, here's one alternative is a track, another alternative is, a multi-use
And
facility.
maybe you do both.
Yeah, you could build it around the outside or whatever. So I think that's fine.
Okay.
I think that's an appropriate discussion item.
The funding will be the big issue.
Yeah.
Well, it was shared that there have been big improvements on indoor surface facilities and a corresponding reduction in cost, so might be worth revisiting.
Anything else?
Just a new item I'd like to add, and that's status of the sports field there at the Mount Diablo Elementary School. We have a current funding drive here in Clayton to more or less take care of the safety issue that you'd think the school should be addressing to a great extent. Shouldn't have to rely on a local massive fundraising effort to make the field safe for the students to be using even during school time.
All right. We'll put it on the list. Yes.
So I have just one comment on the number 2 in terms of the drop-offs and pickups. It's definitely an issue, I think, at the elementary school, but it is a little bit of an issue at the middle school as well. I'm not typically there at the time, but as of just last week, I happened to be there at that time, and there was one person who literally blocked Marsh Creek Road and decided to wait in line in the middle of Marsh Creek Road. So there's I think a little bit of education that could go at the middle school as well with the parents. But then I had a question, a comment about a potential new item as well. So since the Clayton Valley High School is now a charter school, our high school students do not have a designated high school. So what the Mount Diablo Unified School District Board did last year, they had a number of board meetings and a couple different decisions about whether or not there's a designated high school, just within the system. I think they first made a decision that Northgate was going to be our designated high school. They then rescinded that decision, and then they made another decision essentially saying that there's an option. I think that decision only, though, applies for current 8th and 7th graders, so I don't think that they made a decision beyond that. So I would like to at least put that on the agenda, in terms of what the discussion is.
I think he's adding it to the list. Okay, good.
I'm not sure that's necessarily a good idea. They put Northgate because they want to take people away from the charter. And they know that they're not going to take people away from the charter, sending them to Concord or Ignacio Valley. And there was a big hullabaloo about that, and people were crying, and then they reinstituted it and stuff. I think drawing more attention to it actually is a negative for us, because I think it puts more pressure on them from the rest of the district that, Clayton shouldn't be singled out. But I think in this instance, their desire to draw people away and get the daily ADA from our kids instead of the charter is going to push them toward using it for Northgate. And frankly, if the kids don't want to go to the charter, Northgate's the best school in the district, and it's better for our citizens. And I think that that's a decision that they're going to make self-interestedly. And I just think that if, and maybe this doesn't draw a huge amount of attention to it, but I think the more we do, then the potential naysayers throughout the rest of the district, get the, Clayton is getting preferential treatment.
Yeah, and I wasn't actually suggesting that they should change it or make it. I mean, I think the current decision they have on board is to have essentially an option. So you get the 8th graders and 7th graders get a form where they can, between the 5 high schools, they can choose. There's an option. So it's not designating any one school. And I'm not suggesting that they should designate a school, but I think the current decision only applies to current 8th and 7th graders and doesn't go beyond that. So I guess I'm just curious
an update then,
if they're going to continue that same policy for the 6th, 5th, whatever graders. And I'm not, like I said, suggesting that they change anything.
Okay.
The other thing that came up in a earlier discussion today was, I know we've generally, either we or the school district has invited the administrators at both Diablo View and at Mount Diablo. I don't know that we invited them or they did, but I would suggest that we invite them as well as the board at Clayton Valley Charter.
Agreed.
To our meeting so that they know what we're talking about. Because the more that the folks there know what we're talking about, the more they can help follow through on whatever recommendations we make for their involvement. I mean, we talk about better traffic circulation around both of our local schools, and the people that are there having to do it aren't there in the meeting. It's not very productive.
Yeah, we
So
should
maybe
send out a
even
formal-
inviting the PFC folks, the officers on the PFC to come.
I think that's a great idea, is we can get some letters from the mayor to each of the schools and the PFCs, and I think that's a great idea. Generate some interest.
Yeah. I mean, if the PFC hears from us that it's a concern, maybe they will step up and initiate some action.
And I do have to add that actually I know a number of both. I have a kid in the elementary school and middle school, so I actually did communicate to the PFC presidents already that we're having agenda meeting tonight, and then March 6th there will be a joint meeting.
Yeah, I've talked to the Clayton Valley Charter folks too.
Great idea.
So,
Good.
but I think a formal letter of invitation would
Okay.
be a good idea.
All right.
Just a question on the mechanics. The Clayton Valley Charter Board, to invite them, but are they officially to convene as the board, or?
No, I'd just say send a representative,
Okay.
Yeah.
you.
not the full board, just to send a representative from each of the agencies.
Thank you.
Anything further? All right, this is an item for action, but I'm going to open now for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak to this item, please come forward, state your name, and we'll take what input you have. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing portion and bring it back to the council for action,
We've given direction.
or different direction. We've done it.
Yeah, you need to officially
Set the
call
meeting.
a special joint meeting for that.
So moved.
Second?
Moving to second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all signify support by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstention? Ordered, okay. That takes care of all the action items. We have item 9, council items. That's limited to requests and directives for future meetings. Anything? None. Closed session? None. Adjourning now to the regular council meeting on the 7th, but we will also be back on Monday, the 6th of March, for the special joint meeting with the Unified School District Board. End of meeting.
Good.